All right, let's talk some NBA. Joining me today, Tom Haberstroh. Tom, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. How are you, Kev?
I'm doing excellent, man. It was a fun night in the NBA. Jokic, 55 points in a Nuggets win over the Clippers. I love the Ty Lue quote after the game when talking about the game plan against Jokic. You know, we were playing single coverage. We wanted to force him to be a scorer. I didn't think he would score 55. And Jokic just made it look easy the whole night, Tom. It was nuts.
Yeah, I mean, we need to have a conversation of whether he's the greatest offensive player we've ever seen pick up a basketball.
I mean, he sure looked like it last night, for sure.
He's looked like it for the last 6 years. This isn't just one blip.
But he keeps getting better and better, Tom. It's crazy. How does he keep getting better? Already the best player in the world, and he gets better.
And he did it to Zoo last night. Yeah. It's not like he was going against the Wizards. Zoo was one of the best defensive players of the year last year. And yeah, the Clippers have had their struggles, but what he was doing inside and out, passing, running the floor, shooting, finishing around the basket. I mean, running in transition and dunking with two hands. Who is this guy? He has no flaws, Kevin. If you look at the numbers, they're absurd this season. He's leading the league in assists per game. He's leading the league in rebounds per game. He's right now shooting 78% on twos. 78, Kev. And he's shooting, by the way, 42% on threes. And this game, he scored 52 points in 3 quarters, Kev. Like, this is the apex of Nikola Jokic, and it feels like we're not really covering this in the appropriate manner. Like, this is what we're seeing right now is pinnacle basketball. We've never seen a big man own the game like this on one end of the floor. It's simply astonishing what Jokic is doing right now.
I mean, it's hard to fathom, really, that Jokic is 3-time MVP, a champion. Now, at this point of his career, he is 30 years old. At this point, he's playing the best basketball of his life. He turns 31 in February, and it feels like he continues to get better every year of his career in some way. And at this point, I think he also has, on paper, the best overall roster of his career. Steve Jones from the Dunker Spot posted a clip from the game where it was like showing Jokic's numbers. I think it was after 3 quarters when he had the 52 points, as you said. And then like the graphic moves off screen. It flips to Jonas Valanciunas hitting a post up. It's like he has the best backup center of his career. The supporting cast is excellent. And Jokic is better than ever as well. And I just feel privileged to watch this guy. Because as you said, he is, at least in my lifetime, the greatest offensive player that I've ever seen. He has literally no holes. There are no holes. He's an elite three-point shooter, elite post player, elite offensive rebounder, elite decision maker, elite post player, elite at attacking from a face-up position, elite at literally everything except he doesn't finish lob dunks. But that's about it. He doesn't need it.
Yeah, Kev, like in this game, he had everything going. And you wonder at this point with Nikola Jokic, like, is there a hole in his game, period? Because you look at the passing, the rebounding, the running up the floor. Did I forget to mention he's shooting 87%? Wait, 87% in the restricted area and 82% on middies this year.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't.
He's 9 of 11 on middies, on mid-range jumpers. There's no hole in his game, right? So let's just talk about this for a second. You mentioned that the supporting cast is even better than it has been. Let's remind the folks that he's never played with a Luka. He's never played with an all-star player. He's never played with an all-NBA player. Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray, really good players. They've never gotten a vote for all-NBA in their entire careers. Just imagine if Jokic had a co-pilot that was also a perennial all-star or all-NBA player. LeBron has had that. Steph Curry has had that. Michael Jordan has had that. Magic, Kareem, Wilt, they've all had Hall of Famers next to them. Jokic has never had an all-star or an all-NBA vote getter, a single vote for all-NBA next to him. And so I think this is such a unique case with Nikola Jokic. We've never seen an all-time great like this, someone who's on the Mount Rushmore, GOAT status, like in that conversation, but has never had a co-pilot ever. And so I think we have to like recalibrate what we're seeing with Jokic, because he's doing this where Cam Johnson left early in this game and Christian Brown left early in this game, and he still dominated the Clippers that needed a win.
I'll tell you what, Tom. I don't know if he's going to get named an All-Star this year, because it's only 24 spots, and they're doing the funky thing this year with the 2 American teams and then the 1 world team and all that, the new system this year, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But Aaron Gordon, through 10 games so far this year, not on top of the elite defense, averaging 19.6 points per game on 50, 40, 90, 53.3% from the field, 45.1% from 3, 90% from the free throw line. He's been an all-star caliber player this year. Aaron Gordon, now at age 30, playing the best basketball of his entire life as well. And so you're right, everything you said about Jokic in the past, but some of these other guys alongside him are growing. And Aaron Gordon suddenly becoming last year a very good shooter, after really being up and down throughout his entire career. Very good last year from 3, great last year. Now he's amazing as a shooter. He upped the volume, and he's even hitting more free throws this year. So I'd say Aaron Gordon deserves all-star consideration if you voters, when it comes time, the coaches choosing the backups are factoring in defense on top of his excellent offense. So the Nuggets look like a very complete basketball team. As we're hitting on here, the Clippers on the other side of this, they just continue to look old, Tom. And this is a team that entered with high expectations this season. They're only 3-8 on the year. They've lost 6 in a row. Kawhi Leonard has not played recently. And now we get news that Bradley Beal is out for the season because of a fractured hip. And he was playing like he had a fractured hip. So really no surprise here at this point. But boy, Norm Powell playing better basketball than ever now with Miami. They replaced him with Brad Beal, who I thought could be an upgrade, considering what Beal was just last year, even in his diminished state compared to his prime. Well, no, not so much. This is a severe, severe downgrade for the Clippers, and I don't feel too good at all about this Clippers team moving forward, Tom, at one bit.
I guess you could talk yourself into Chris Dunn. Getting Chris Dunn more minutes will help the defense and help the transition defense, which was an abomination this past on Wednesday night against the Nuggets. Jokic had more fast break points than the Clippers. Okay.
Wow.
Nikola Jokic had more fast breaks. He had 6 fast break points, and the Clippers had 4. Okay. And the FUCK t-shirt that Jeff Van Gundy created has done nothing to help in that department. It hasn't done anything.
Cheesy. That was like the most old guy thing ever. It's so cheesy.
And it was wasn't it one of the complaints was about Denver transition defense, and they against the Denver Nuggets last night on Wednesday night they got killed in transition. And so it's just, I don't know what's going to save this Clippers team. They entered the year as the oldest team in NBA history projected to be, and of course now with Bradley Beal out for the season with the hip fracture, it really underscores how much this team rides on Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, which is a problem because Kawhi Leonard misses about half his games. So everything falls on the shoulders defensively on Zoo and Chris Dunn, Derek Jones Jr. These guys need to do better defensively. Getting back in transition against a Denver Nuggets team, they got destroyed. Bradley Beal, it's just been bad luck all around the last few years. He goes over in the trade to Phoenix, and then things fall apart in year 2 of that partnership with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, and they got to blow that up. And I wonder how much closer we are to the Clippers using the first round picks that they have at their disposal to try to trade to upgrade their wing position or their 4 position, because they need help in the worst way. They're 3-8. Bradley Beal's gone for the season. They don't have Norm Powell anymore, who's been an absolute stud over there in Miami in their new flow offense. And Bradley Beal, what a weird career, right? Like, you're looking at a guy who's a 2-time 30-point scorer, average scorer in the NBA. There's only 23 teams. I'm going to say that again. Bradley Beal has twice averaged 30 points a game, Kevin. There's only 23 players in NBA history who have done that. Multiple seasons of averaging over 30 points a game. He hasn't been able to put it together in a deep postseason run. He's not a guy who's been all NBA, multiple all NBA, but like this Bradley Beal early in his career, it didn't look like he was able to get over those stress fractures that were really plaguing him in his legs early in his career. And then suddenly he puts it together and becomes one of the premier scorers in the league. And it would be a really sad way to end things here if the no trade clause became like his nickname in the second half of his career with Phoenix. And then with the hip surgery here, it's a really sad way for Bradley Beal to go into his mid-30s here, going with, two really tough seasons with the Phoenix Suns and, of course, now with the LA Clippers. I hope this isn't it for Bradley Beal, but considering his injury history, it's going to be a really tough uphill climb for him to get back to being a real contributor for a contender now.
Well, I mean, too bad for Beal, too bad for the Clippers. They're 3-8, and guess what? The Thunder have their first round pick.
Dude.
The Thunder have their first round pick. Just letting you know, everybody. And the Thunder are 12-1 after winning again last night without Jalen Williams. They had a 121-92 win over the Lakers, dominant fashion. And OKC's defense, Tom, I'll tell you what, nobody has defended Luka better this entire season. The Thunder held Luka to a season low 19 points, primarily using Cason Wallace as the defender against Luka. Alex Caruso had a handful of possessions as well. And just the way in which they defended him, especially Wallace, he's smaller than Luka, but he's so sturdy as a defender. His reaction time is literally like a mirror with the way he moves and stays in front of Luka. And OKC's defense through now, like I said, they are 12-1 through 13 games. They have a 103 defensive rating. The Nuggets are number 2 in defensive rating at 109.4. That's a huge gap. And of course, we're early in the year here, but that would be by far the biggest differential between number 1 and number 2 in defensive rating in NBA history. In 07-08, the Celtics had a 2.4 points per 100 possession differential over second place. In 15-16, the Spurs 2.6. In 19-20, Bucks 2.2. In 23-24, the Wolves had a 2.2 points per 100 possessions difference. And then last year, OKC 2.5 points over second place. So 103 defensive rating for Oklahoma City to boom, big drop, 6.4 points lower. Nuggets at 109.4. And OKC's on pace for 75 wins without Jalen Williams. It's so crazy.
Dude. And they could take 2 lottery picks and trade them and get another star.
Oh my God.
They have 2 lotto picks next year.
It's not
crazy.
Fair, Tom. Oh my God.
And like Jalen Williams was an all defensive team member last year. Yes. And they're trending to be the best defense. Last year I was like, this is the best defense I've ever seen.
And they're even better.
Even better this year.
How?
It's great continuity, great coaching. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, earlier this season, I remember he was like top 10 in blocks per game, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And I was just like, what? The point guard, who's the reigning MVP, has now become a shot blocker to the level of a big man. And so he is a big guard for sure. But Cason Wallace, he's going to be all defensive this year. If he keeps doing this season, he's going to be on there. You could make a case for their entire starting 5 as being all defense. You really could. And that's really what we're talking about here is they just 1 through 5 plug and play. Doesn't matter who's out on the floor. Caruso could be the best player on the floor defensively. Chet Holmgren, Hartenstein, SGA. I could name 7 Thunder who could be the decoy on any given night. That's how good they are defensively. It's just really hard to pinpoint one reason why they're so good defensively when they just are all Dobermans. They're all Dobermans on this team that are just going to rip you apart. Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic just looked like completely monsters, stole their powers in that game on Wednesday night, and it was over before it even started. It's just OKC is every game, it's like there's another stud that just pops into the lineup, and you're like, oh, he's the best player on the floor. AJ Mitchell, what? Most improved player of the year candidate, might be running away favorite for that award, where he's just like, yeah, I'm going to be the second best player for the Thunder this year after being a 2-way guy last year.
I know. It's absolutely unbelievable. And AJ Mitchell, I mean, I'm sure he'll move back to the bench once Jalen Williams is back. He could win the 6th man of the year right? I mean, that could be the award that he ends up winning. And if it's not AJ Mitchell, Isaiah Joe has 21 points last night. They're playing Brandon Carlson, for backup center minutes, giving him an opportunity. He's looking pretty good out there defensively, protecting the rim, grabbing boards in 17 minutes. OKC is just, they're good 1 to 15. Brooks Barnheiser as a rookie looks good. It's just, it is truly a remarkable team, what they have. And I thought the Draymond Green quote from the weekend where he was talking about the Thunder and he's like, they love each other, they're connected. It reminds me of us, back in the day. And it's 100% the truth with what OKC is doing. We saw Golden State once make a run at the Bulls' 73-win season. Of course, a 72-win season, Golden State wins 73 that year. And they exceed that. They lose in the finals. OKC on pace for 75 wins at this point, Tom. I tweeted out last night, I was like, OKC really might win 70. And it's like, yes, by 70, I meant 70 plus. I should have put a plus on there. But the amount of replies are like, no. They're not going to push for 70. They're going to push for 80. That's too much, obviously. But it's definitely, they have a shot of winning 74 games this season. It is not an exaggeration to say that. It is not at all with the way this team has looked. No championship hangover at all. That's because they don't drink, Tom. That's why there's no hangover, right?
There's no hangover because they don't drink. I like that. I think, when they get J-Dub back,
oh man.
It's over. Like, it's over. The Blazers beat them, right? And I was stunned that the Blazers were able to top that team because of how good they are, top to bottom. Just they're incredibly good on both ends of the floor. And with SGA being a guy who's a two-way star, like he leads by example, that he gives a lot defensively. And oh, by the way, he's going to have 30, 35 points like a metronome. Guaranteed that he's going to get his 30 a night. And oh, by the way, on the other end of the floor, he'll be the head of the snake. And sometimes Alex Caruso's not even going to play. And they're going to be just, because of Case and Wallace and because of the other guys on the team, they're just, it feels like defensively, they have 6 guys on the floor at all times. Like, you watch them play, and it's like, how do they have only 5 guys on the floor? They're everywhere. And right now, as of now, I'm on Tankathon.com. They would have the number 7 pick and the number 9 pick from Utah in this draft, Kev. Like, they could package those, and move
that
up
Utah
into
pick is top 8 protected. Top 8 protected,
True.
Which, if Utah, they're competitive. They're having some good years from guys. They could end up with the 9th or 10th best odds. That's realistic.
Realistic.
Very well. Yeah, it's realistic, I'd say. I mean, some of those teams at the bottom aren't going anywhere. I don't think Utah is going to be bad enough to catch Washington, Indiana, Brooklyn. I wouldn't say that for sure.
And if the Kings and the Dallas and Memphis pull the plug on the season, then the Western Conference gets a little bit more interesting for guys like the Utah Jazz and the Pelicans, where it's like the Pelicans are going to try to go for it because they don't have the rights to their pick this season.
Yes.
And the Pelicans are going to have every incentive not to tank and try to win as many games as possible. It's tough when you don't have Zion and DeJounte Murray and Jordan Poole out there. But as someone who just watched Derek Queen last night against the Blazers, like, they have something there, and the Pelicans are going to want to win, and I wouldn't be surprised if they try to swing a deal to try to get better this season, which makes teams like Utah and OKC's pick a lot more valuable for OKC if there is going to be some teams trying to win and some, the teams that we didn't think were going to be tanking might end up actually tanking.
Yeah, kind of nuts. It is just absolutely nuts the position that the Oklahoma City Thunder are in. It blows my mind. On the Lakers side of things, they lose that game, probably their worst loss of the season. LeBron James was assigned to the South Bay Lakers, so he is moving much, much closer to a return for LA this season. Obviously, good news for them to get a player of LeBron's caliber back on the floor. But I do think, regardless of his return, we did see the vast difference between OKC and the Lakers and really everybody else. I mean, it's just nuts. Like the Thunder, Tom, the Nuggets would be the clear favorite if Oklahoma City didn't exist. They would be the clear favorite. I noticed on Tom the Finder, you did your 5-star rankings this week. You had the Thunder and the Nuggets. That's because there's no 6-star
I
for the
know.
Thunder. Not to give you an idea. Like, you could just put OKC as 6. They get an extra star above everybody else. I mean, but yeah, it's just true. Like, it's a big difference for the Lakers even getting LeBron back.
I was just going to ask you, dude, like, do I downgrade the Nuggets just because OKC is that good that I just put OKC on a tier on themselves? And then the question is Houston, like, what would you need to see from Houston for them to get into that tier? Because hey, our boy Reed Shepherd, I don't know if we want to talk about it, but he's hitting up 50% from downtown this season, and he is just on fire. And he had another 20-point outing in this one off the bench, quietly rounding back into form. And this OKC offense, let's just say defensively, offensively, I have no concerns. Houston's offense has been outrageous. And so, like, it's been OKC and everybody else, but I've got my eye on Houston, the way that they're shooting the ball and defending. This Houston team is really good too. So I'm tempted right now. If I'm going to do the title tiers right now, OKC 5-star, Denver and Houston as the 4-star on a tier of themselves. And then it's everybody else. Houston and Denver are really good, but OKC is just, there's 75 win pace. What are you going to say?
I think that is spot on. I think that's the way it's going to be. OKC 5-star, Houston, Denver 4-star, and everybody else 3, 2, or 1. Everybody else in that category, Lakers included, Warriors, Spurs included. We'll talk about them right now. Steph Curry had an awesome performance last night in a big Warriors win, a statement win over the Spurs. Steph had 46, but I felt like, Tom, this win was in large part about the defense Golden State played against Victor Wembanyama, particularly Draymond Green. Wemby was 2 for 10 in the game with multiple turnovers when he was defended by Draymond Green. And it was Draymond's best defensive game of the season from the first possession of the game, holding him away from getting to his spot throughout the entire night. He was bothering Wemby, waving his long wingspan in front of him, forcing him into tough shots, forcing some sloppy turnovers from Victor. Draymond was excellent in the game. He played like he was hungry with something to prove. And then offensively, Jimmy Butler, aggressive from start to finish in the game. He had as many threes, 7 of them against the Spurs, as he had in his last 5 games combined. And so I felt like Stephen Curry had the big night that everybody's going to talk about with 46, but Draymond and Jimmy Butler, the co-stars on that team, gave Steph the support that this team needs to win more games moving forward.
Yeah, this was a tour de force defensively, Draymond Green, and still Wemby had a triple-double, a 30-point triple-double, but he could have had a 50-pointer if it weren't for Draymond Green. Like, that's how good Draymond was defensively. And, I mean, this is another little badge for Draymond Green being the best defensive player of his generation, right? Like, of the last, 10 years, has there been a better defensive player than Draymond Green, where, at his age, going against Wemby, he's able to not shut him down, but slow him down when he's giving up a foot, to Wemby, like a clear foot to Wemby. And he's such a smart defender, the way he's able to be, he doesn't let you move him off his base. He's got huge arms, and he's being able to contest without fouling. And Wemby was, he was out of sorts for a lot of this game. And you're right. Stephen Curry, 46 points, was a supernova offensively. Draymond Green was locked in. But what happened to Jonathan Kuminga? That thing went so fast from, hey, he's doing all the right things, he's starting, he's playing well, to he's back in the doghouse, 12 minutes, and he didn't score a single point. I think he took 1 shot in this game. And the agenda comments from Draymond Green, I don't think is any coincidence that Steve Kerr made a switch to the starting lineup. You saw this defensive output, and Jonathan Kuminga was nowhere to be seen in this game.
Yeah, Kuminga got benched in this game. This season, he's made an effort to pass the ball more and to rebound more. Credit where it's due there. But offensively, besides really, I felt like his first game of the season against the Lakers. Aside from that, he looks the same as he did last year. And I think for the Warriors, it was the right decision to bench him. And for him in the game, like, he goes out after 12 minutes with knee soreness. I wonder how much of that was like legitimate injury versus like sour grapes from being benched. But he had a worst game of the season after the move to the bench. And ultimately, the Warriors played better in part in his absence. And you mentioned those comments from Draymond Green. So Anthony Slater over at ESPN reported on Wednesday morning about those comments that, some of the players on the team felt a certain kind of way about Podz, because Podz before the season was asked about his ambitions, and he's like, I want to be, better than Stephen Curry. And Anthony Slater wrote an answer that elicited some eye rolls and continued references from several within the organization. And then after their last loss, both Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green had some comments as well. That's why Slater wrote about this. Draymond had, said, I think everybody was committed to winning back in the day. At this point, it doesn't feel that way. I think everyone has a personal agenda in this league, but you have to make those personal agendas work within the team confines. If that doesn't work, you got to get rid of your agenda. And then Jimmy Butler, was asked about that. And he's like, well, everybody's got to be honest with themselves. We got to get back to doing whatever it takes to win. Everybody might have to sacrifice and so on and so forth, right? And so my sense from those comments, from Anthony Slater's report, and from just reading the room with Warriors fans are so often pointing the finger at Podz and pointing the finger at Kuminga. So over on Threads, I made a post where I was like, who cares if Podz wants to be better than Stephen Curry? Who cares? Warriors shouldn't be side-eyeing him. Fans shouldn't be blaming him. And I said, the old guys are the problem in Golden State, not the youth. Draymond Green has declined, and Jimmy Butler has always been a malcontent who has failed to step up in the biggest moments for multiple years now. As we've talked about earlier in the podcast, last 11 elimination games has not shot the ball often enough or efficiently enough. And I said, this is on them more than anyone else. Still, Steph Curry is still great and deserves so much better. Well, little did I expect, Draymond Green himself responded to that, Tom. He said, who said it was the young guys, Kevin? I said, we. One thing for certain, I don't mince words, and you don't have to speak for me. That's what the Draymond Green show is for. I speak for me always. And then he replied again, and he said, and I'm certain I know far more than you do about winning. You couldn't win your intramural sports. I thought it was a good idea to become a, quote, NBA writer. And if you want to do some in-depth analysis and game breakdown, I will also put you to shame at that. Look, of course, you're a Hall of Famer. Of course, you're going to be better at that than me, Draymond. And I responded to that level-headed response. I felt like I said, when did I say anything about what you said post-game? Which is true. I don't feel like I was talking specifically about him. Not a thing. My Podz comment was partially about the Anthony Slater report. The players rolled their eyes at his comments / goals, but it was also about what I'm reading from the fans. Warriors fans seem to be mostly pointing fingers at the young guys. I don't think that's fair at all. Butler took 3 shots last night. This was Monday night, and Tuesday night. We know he's capable of much more. And you yourself said this week you've failed the defense so far this year, which is true. Draymond himself said, I've failed our defense when it looks as crappy as it does. I've failed. You can send as many messages as you want until we do it. I'm failing at that. And so, I felt like, yeah, of course, Draymond and Butler could step up like they did, by the way, on Wednesday night, Tom. And then, this is the good one.
What?
Draymond responded again. He said, you have all the answers, genius, and you want more views. Here's your help. Would you like to do a film breakdown? Maybe your basketball knowledge has grown over the last 4 years. The number 1 pick, wow, you stink at this. And attached was a link to my appearance in 2020 on the Ryan Russillo podcast, talking about the case for Killian Hayes as the number 1 pick. It's like, great, Draymond.
That's off.
Great stuff.
I gotta hand it to him.
It was great. It was really good.
Was great.
Well done, Draymond.
That was great.
I did respond to that. He has not responded from what I've seen since. And I just said, just the opposite, Draymond. I don't have all the answers, and I'll be wrong plenty of times. Just like Bob Myers was in that same 2020 draft taking Wiseman. And I'll be right plenty of times too, just like he was selecting you years ago. And this is what I really feel here, Tom. I said, your reaction is so strange. You're going back 5 years for this for what? You said this week you failed the defense and Butler needs to be better than taking 3 shots, clearly. It's It's more reasonable to expect more from you two veterans than from the youth. And I think that's exactly what happened on Wednesday night, Tom. Butler and Draymond were awesome. They were incredible. Kuminga didn't play the whole second half. Podz was typical Podz, but it was Draymond and Jimmy Butler raising their abilities to the level that we all know that they can reach. And what happened? The Warriors had a big win against the Spurs with Draymond defending Wemby better than anybody has this entire season. Jimmy Butler having his best offensive game overall. And Stephen Curry, 46 points, got the support he needed, not from the kids, from the vets, the guys that have been heavily invested in. So I think Draymond knows it. He just likes to talk, and I like to talk too. It's fun to talk trash.
Hey,
but I loved it.
Kev, I'm going to say it for you. Warriors fans, you're welcome. You're welcome. Without Kev, they don't get that fiery performance from Draymond. Without Kev, you're not getting that amazing 46 supernova from Stephen Curry. Everyone was fired up because they wanted to prove you wrong, Kev, but prove you right by saying, hey, the veterans, as they've come up short before and how good they've done, winning those championships, like this whole Podz and Kuminga, the weird wedge in that locker room that appears because you have Draymond Green saying those things. You're quoting Draymond Green this season. I think you're absolutely right. And I also think the reason why Draymond Green was so fired up and provoked in this is because you struck a chord. You struck a chord with him. And sometimes when it hits bone, it hurts a lot more, right? So I think Draymond, it's great that he's engaged on this and he's interacting with you on this. And I think the Killian Hayes shout out was fantastic. And that's a good. That's good barbs. It's good back and forth. I love this. I loved it. And you know what? Take ownership of it. Tell the Warriors fans you're welcome. And I turned around the season for you because you know what? You did, Kev. You did. It's all because of you. So I'm going to
2 years in a row, Tom. Last year, it wasn't the Butler trade. It was me saying, don't trade for Butler. Trade Steph and Draymond. 2 years in a row, I helped you guys out. Congrats.
Hashtag
as if you guys haven't won enough.
Yeah. Man, I had no idea. I had no idea that you were sitting on that exchange. Like we went how many minutes in this pod and you had that in your back pocket. So you went, this was when? Tuesday? When you guys had the back and forth?
This was yesterday, Wednesday. So this was on Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah. I had my phone on Do Not Disturb and I got a text, a screenshot of Draymond's two responses to me in one of my group chats. And I was like, oh my God.
Here we go.
Here we go. All right. I got to respond now. I felt like I was very level-headed in my responses, which I typically am. But Draymond, the Killian Hayes thing was very, very funny. That was great. There were some responses to that saying, is this about Ryan or KOC? It's like, no, it's about me.
Yeah, dude. I don't want it to be about me, but I'm going to say it's about me. Ryan has nothing to do with this.
I will definitely own that. That's for sure. Yes. I mean, the biggest mistake of my career covering the draft, I hope. I hope.
But you don't take yourself too seriously, and that's important here, is that we have to have a thick skin when you're working in media. And Draymond Green coming at you about, the Killian Hayes pick, that's good. That's good. And you're able to laugh at it, which is so hard. I think a lot of media folks, I don't think would be able to laugh about something like that because they would take themselves too seriously and get even more dug in and entrenched in your opinion. And instead, we're sitting here. I think that's a wonderful exchange. I think that's great. And you know what? I think Steve Kerr would be very happy with you, the whole Warriors organization. I've had that happen to me before. When I was reporting for the Miami Heat, it was like there were ways that I could get underneath LeBron's skin and kind of alert him to stats or whether he was loafing or whether he was coasting. And it was oftentimes, it was like the media is the only people that they'll listen to sometimes. When the media is writing about some of their weaknesses or their insecurities or their weak points in their game, then they will turn on and reverse course and actually listen to that. If it's a coach, if it's a teammate, if it's someone in their circle, they might not be willing to hear that. But when it's Kevin O'Connor saying that, sometimes it does provoke action in ways that they might not do that for someone within the Warriors organization. So I do think there is power in the media. I mean, we see it with Dwight Howard and his free throws and try not to be on Shaqtin' a fool. The media does have an influence. And hell, the Nico Harrison chants, like Jason Kidd in his comments after the Nico Harrison news came out, he was very much saying it was disrespectful of the fans to be saying fire Nico during PJ Washington's late game free throws. That was disrespectful. But part of me said, you know what? It feels good that the people matter, that the voices can be heard on these things, and that the media matters, and the money that the players are getting, a lot of it is because of the TV rights and the media deals that the NBA is signing. And so I think part of me is like, you know, it's good that Draymond Green is clapping back and engaging with the media, because I think it shows that the media matters, the fans matter, and I think we need that to matter in order for all of this to feel like the stakes are high. Every game, the stakes are high, and when people go to the games, that their voices can matter and have. We want Mavs fans to feel part of the team, that their voice does matter. And I think in a weird way, I'm thinking about the Nico Harrison stuff with the Draymond comments, that we do matter. The media matters and the fan bases matter, and that's great for the ecosystem of the NBA.
I mean, ultimately, I do think that's spot on, Tom. I mean, I do think the voices matter. The fan voices should matter. None of us have a job if the fans didn't exist. As podcasters, as players, as coaches, as the commissioner, nobody's has a job. And if there weren't as many fans, you wouldn't be making any money, or you'd be working summer jobs like Tommy Heinsohn and the 60 Celtics guys had to do. I mean, like, it's just part of it, right? And so the fans ultimately are the number one responsibility, in my opinion, as a
Serving
podcaster.
Yep.
I always serve the fans, and I think that's true also for the NBA itself as well. And in regards to Nico Harrison, undoubtedly, the Dallas Mavericks fans, their voice did make an impact here, on top of course, the Mavericks getting off to a horrific start to the season. Never mind the big mistake 9 months ago, the worst trade since Babe Ruth was traded from the Red Sox to the Yankees, trading Luka to the Lakers. Nico Harrison was overdue. He should have been fired as soon as he approached Patrick Dumont with the idea to make this trade. He should have been fired then. And ultimately, Dumont made a mistake. Usually, Tom, like, how often do new owners like Matt Ishbia with the Phoenix Suns, they meddle too much, right? They meddle too much as soon as they get an opportunity. Dumont didn't meddle enough. He was sat on his hands. He just trusted this GM he inherited. Idiotic decision by him, very poor decision making to empower Nico to make that move. And ultimately, I mean, as Jason Gallagher, that post on screen, had said, I mean, there's an ignorance to Nico Harrison, both from the fans, and there's been multiple reports about with executives underneath him, with those who didn't align with his vision for the team. And so Dallas is not a championship contender as he expected them to be. They are not an elite defense as he expected them to be. They are a subpar team that currently is going through a lot of injuries. No surprise considering Kyrie, AD, and so on, the history of those guys on the team. So ultimately, Tom, I think for Dallas fans, good for you that, like, you're able to start moving forward here. But Tom, I don't think Nico being fired can be the end of things here. To me, this needs to be the beginning of a lot of changes here. I think the Mavericks need to now move forward with looking for Anthony Davis trades, Kyrie Irving trades, listening to what you can get for some of those younger veterans. Like, is someone going to go over the top for Daniel Gafford or PJ Washington? And at this point, for the Mavericks, they have their 2026 first round pick, Tom, and then they don't have the rights to their first again until 2031. This is really the last chance for Dallas with their own pick to find a young star to pair with Cooper Flag. And considering the incredible strength of this draft class that seems to be only getting better as the weeks go by in college basketball, Dallas needs to blow it up. in my opinion. Nico can't be the end here, Tom. It's got to be the beginning of really blowing up everything at this point in order to build properly around Cooper Flag moving forward.
How did the Oklahoma City Thunder get to where they are right now? It's because they looked in the mirror and they said, yeah, we're going to move off of Russell Westbrook and the Paul George and start from scratch, break it down to the studs. And it's time for Dallas to do the same thing, is to understand that their picks, the supporting cast, everything needs to revolve around how to build around Cooper Flag. This is Cooper Flag's team. Who's going to be the GM? Who's going to be the head coach? Who's going to be his co-stars? And it behooves them to break this all down and build from the ground up around Cooper Flag. First, second, and third thing needs to happen is to build around that dude. No more about Kyrie Irving. No more about AD and PJ Washington and the big guys in the middle. It's all about Cooper Flag. And, I wrote about this for Yahoo Sports. The idea of like who is going to replace Nico Harrison, a lot of people you're seeing, I think Zach Lowe mentioned it, Chris Mannix mentioned it, is that maybe Jason Kidd moves upstairs into the GM room in the front office. I think if you're Patrick Dumont, you have to just clean house. You have to just, everybody who was involved on the Luka Doncic trade, and of course, Dumont himself, unless he removes himself as the owner of the team, which isn't going to happen, I think he has to do right by the fans and just start from scratch to build the credibility back with the fans. And Jason Kidd was sitting next to Nico Harrison during the first press conference after the trade. And Nico said, I did this trade and this guy right here supported it, but I did the trade. And I can only imagine now Jason Kidd would like to distance himself from that Luka Doncic trade. Maybe then he wanted to distance himself, but he was sitting next to Nico in that press conference afterwards. And so I just feel like in order for the Dallas Mavericks to do right by its fans and do right by Cooper Flag, let's make no mistake about it. He said it after the game. I don't care about everything that's happening on above me. That's above me. I just focus on basketball and I focus on what we're doing in the locker room. But I think it would be prudent for this organization to do everything they can to remove themselves from the Luka Doncic trade. Just totally exercise yourself from that awful trade. And that means cleaning house top to bottom.
I 100% agree. It's like throwing out your ex's clothes or whatever, a gift they might have given you. Just sometimes you're just gonna move on. That's how you gotta do it.
like I don't know. I wrote 5 candidates to replace Nico. I put in Bob Myers because of the connections with Rick Welts, who's the CEO and on the business side of the Mavericks. Mentioned him. I mentioned having a nostalgic play with Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash, whether Steve Nash is the coach or in the front office. But
you're trying to ruin the Amazon broadcast, Tom? That's great.
I know. Look,
come on, Tom.
Isn't it kind of weird how Mind the Game is now like the pipeline to the NBA's top jobs? Like JJ Redick left to go take the Lakers job and left ESPN and the pod to go coach LeBron James and Luka Doncic. And then now I'm like Steve Nash also Mind the Game and Amazon Prime. I'm sorry. I had to apologize to Amazon Prime in that column. I was like, look, I know this is going to hurt, but it would be really cool if Dirk and Nash went back to the Mavs and they just made right by the fans. I think Rich Paul also very interesting because of the Anthony Davis connection, and he's also the rep for Derek Lively. I got to imagine, I have no intel on this, but I got to imagine Rich Paul and the way things went down with the Luka trade. I don't think that he's nearly as close to running the show in the Laker land like people believed he was before that trade. And if you're Rich Paul and you have the opportunity to build around Cooper Flag and have a GM job or running basketball ops, I don't know. That's an opportunity that I think there's more there than people are willing to admit. I think Rich Paul does has aspirations at some point to run an NBA team. I just, from where I sit, because look, Bob Myers did it. Arn Tellem did it. Leon Rose did it, moving from super agent to a GM job. And I wouldn't be surprised if Rich Paul does it one day. And Grant Hill is another name I threw on there, is a Dallas native, born in Dallas. His dad played for the Cowboys, and now he's in the front office, the ownership group with the Atlanta Hawks, of course, and he would have to separate himself from the Atlanta Hawks. But I think of those candidates there, I think just to win back the fans, Dirk and Nash makes the most sense. But I also think either one of those, it would be good to move away from the Jason Kidd, Nico Harrison era and bring in a new regime.
Yeah, I think at some point, just to address the Rich Paul aspect, I do think at some point he'd love to take that leap. When, who knows? We'll see. But ultimately, I think for the Dallas Mavericks, Tom, Anthony Davis, trading him is priority number one. Over at Yahoo, I wrote a column about, just explaining to Mavericks fans the pressure to build now around Cooper with how strong this draft class is, like beyond AJ DeBansa, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, just some of the other guys in this class. Caleb Wilson from North Carolina says he'll be number one. He says he wants to prove to people he'll be number one. Somebody in his camp said to me, he is number one. We'll see in time, but he looks awesome. And so I think ultimately, like, you're going to see multiple guys that push for the top three. That's how strong this class is feeling. Nate Ament from Tennessee, Mikal Brown from Louisville had a big game earlier this week as well. Talked about him with James Barlow on the podcast. The point is that normally, Tom, like in a draft, think about last year with Cooper, right? Cooper, number one pick. Dallas has the 11th best odds. It feels like a miracle. You get number one. All those other teams that had the top odds that moved down to 4 or 5 or 6, they were bummed. This year, I think because the draft is so strong, aside from the top 2 or top 3, this is the best year to be disappointed. If you're the Wizards and you end up with number 4 instead of number 1, it's like, that sucks. But we still get a great player who in most years would be worthy of the 2nd or 3rd or even 1st pick. And so I think for Dallas this year, right now, as we record, they are 3-9, tied for the 5th worst record. That comes with a 9.8% chance of moving up to number 1, a 39.9% chance of being in the top 4. If they stayed at 5, that's not so bad. Point being is for Dallas, there's a chance here to get a player to grow with Cooper. But AD will be back eventually. Kyrie could come back. Clay could remember how to play basketball. They need to trade some of these guys in order to assure they maximize not only their odds for number 1, but their positioning in the draft lottery, where if you lose, you still have an opportunity to take a great player. And so I think I have 2 fake trade ideas for you, Tom. One involving the Pistons for Anthony Davis, because with the Pistons, as we talked about a week ago, with Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart, how great 2 bigs have been for the Pistons. Why not double down on that? Go get AD for Jaden Ivey, Karis LeVert, Tobias Harris, and 2 future first-round picks. They have all of their future picks, so they could plug it into the years that Dallas wants to optimize their flexibility moving forward. To me, this feels like a low price to play for a player of AD's caliber. If you're the Pistons, to try to increase your odds already, as currently, as of Wednesday, the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference at 10-2. Why not double down and further increase your odds?
Wow, that would be a huge trade. I would hope that Anthony Davis would be able to play more than he has in Dallas for that to be a home run swing that could go over the fence. Look, Jalen Duren is so good, and you put him next to Anthony Davis, that defense. I was thinking you were going to trade Beef Stew or Duren in that trade, but now I'm looking at this one, and you're not really giving up any. I mean, Jaden Ivey hasn't been part of this ascension from the Detroit Pistons, so you could talk yourself into, like, let him develop somewhere else if we can get a guy like Anthony Davis. What's interesting there is that Dennis Lindsey is the number 2 in Detroit right now, and of course he was part of the NBA Finals team. The front office for the NBA Finals team as an advisor or as a consultant for the Dallas Mavericks, not necessarily running the show next to Nico Harrison, but would he want to sign off along with Trajan Langdon on bringing Anthony Davis to this squad? If you're not giving up your young core in Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, or Isaiah Stewart, I mean, that's a deal worth looking at for sure.
And the other one I want to get your feelings on here, Tom, is involving the Atlanta Hawks. So with the Hawks, let's send AD to the Atlanta Hawks for Asa Newell, Kristaps Porzingis, Luke Kennard, and 2 future first. KP, very good player. I do worry about that Podz thing that can come and go for him. And ultimately, I do think AD, regardless of KP being on the floor or not, is an upgrade over KP. Asa Newell could be a nice young player for Dallas to get back. To me, this one feels like it could be slightly too much for Atlanta to invest in, but I'm also intrigued with them. Again, the East feels open. The team has not been quite up to expectations so far. So far this year, Atlanta is only 7-5. Solid, but I think there are higher expectations for them. What do you think about this deal for Atlanta?
What about Trae Young? Because Trae Young he can be a free agent this offseason, right? He's got a player option for next year. They have done fairly well without him this season, like you said. They've had questions about the future of Trae Young. And then you move Trae Young, and Dallas can decide whether we want to have Trae Young here right by Oklahoma, where he's from, or we decide, you know what, he's not the right fit for us, but you get off of the Anthony Davis money long term. And that's something we talked about on the Big Number, is that like Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving never played together or finished a game together. There's a lot of injury risk there, but also you need to find a team in the Eastern Conference where they have their own disgruntled star to get to that Anthony Davis number, the cap number. Because a lot of these teams, like you have in the proposal, they have to put like 3-4 guys into the trade to get to Anthony Davis's cap number. And I wonder, if you're the Atlanta Hawks, do you just move Trae Young instead? And that way you don't have to deal with, whether he is the future there in Atlanta anymore. And then on the other side is they need a ball handler for Dallas. They do. Not to say that they're going to try to contend, but I do think you need a point guard, and Trae Young could be that guy. I don't love that deal or the Trae Young formation, but I do think that like Atlanta and Detroit are absolutely the teams that should be calling about Anthony Davis for this reason.
Yeah,
the East is there for the taking. It's there for the taking.
You got to go for it, Tom. I mean, I think some of these teams that there's not when you talk to people around the league, the sense is that this could be a dry market. Like there's just not like Domantas Sabonis could be available, right? If the Grizzlies decide to pull the plug, whatever's left with John Morant, right? Like it's so far, it's not clear-cut stars. And granted, Anthony Davis comes with his own risks as well, considering his lack of durability and the current injury that he has with that Achilles tendonitis. Scary for a guy like him on the wrong side of 30. But ultimately, I think the East is open for those two teams and makes all the sense in the world to at least explore AD trades. That's the Hawks and the Pistons. I think if the Grizzlies wanted to double down, maybe you trade KCP, Aldama, Brandon Clark, maybe go get AD, then you get AD and JJJ and John Morant. Maybe you can talk yourself into it. The Heat, I could see you talking into it with a Bam, AD front court, give up Hero and Rozier and a pick or so. I think there's something there. Maybe I could see the Timberwolves. We talked last week, Tom, about how bad they've been off defensively when Gobert is off the floor. They have a 105.7 defensive rating with Gobert, 130.2 without him. AD Gobert, AD would be an upgrade over Julius Randle. I think those are really the only teams that I could make an argument for, but ultimately there's not a lot out there for him. There's definitely even less teams out there for Kyrie Irving. But if Dallas did put those guys on the table, there'd be at least some bites at the apple for them. And I think the same is also true for the Sacramento Kings. Over at Sacktown Sports 1140 earlier this week, one of their hosts, Carmichael Dave, reported that the Kings are gearing up for a potential rebuild. Guys like Zach LaVine, Domantas Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan could all be on the trading block. And I think this aligns with what we've been talking about here with the state of this NBA draft. The Kings are 3-9 this year so far, with some of these guys missing time. But this is an opportunity to get a stud. And to me, this is the clear, correct path moving forward for the Kings. This team is going nowhere, Tom. They're going nowhere. They're not good. This fit doesn't work. They should be looking to trade these guys, especially in what could be a drier trade market. Some team could feel like LaVine or Sabonis or whoever it might be could be the final piece of their puzzle.
Yeah, it's time to blow it up there, and it's been time for quite a while. And Doug Christie had some comments after in recent days about, having some pride in Sacktown and the culture of the team and all this. And I'm like, what are we talking about here? The Kings, outside of the light the beam season, like, what is the Sacramento Kings culture, right? They've been to
Those
the
were
playoffs
weird comments
once.
by Christy Tom that you mentioned. Those are very strange. I was like, what?
Super strange. The statement to and going after the media and the haters out there.
What?
Look, since 2006, the Kings have made the playoffs once in 20 years. That's it. Like, that's it. That's all that needs to be said. It's not the media's fault here. It's not the haters' fault. You're 3-9 right now. You haven't made the playoffs in 20 out of the last 21 seasons. So in terms of like unrest or haters out there, and you know who you are in the media, like, man, just focus on the team, and you didn't have to make enemies of the media or the fans. If the fans are unhappy, it's because they've had one playoff team in the last 20 years. And it's frustrating to see that the fans or the media are at fault, and he's taking it personally and calling out the media and just being like, you know who you are, when, like, let's just call it what it is. It's been a sorry franchise for a very long time, and the fans and the media have every right to call him out, and that's what the media does. It's accountability. It's all it is accountability. And they're 3-9, and they got the doors blown off of them by an Atlanta Hawks team that were missing a couple guys. So it's just, I found those comments to be really weird, and I think it's really difficult to blow up this team when you're kind of selling low on a lot of these guys. Like, a lot of the guys they're trying to get rid of, it's just that, what are you going to get back for them?
Not a lot, but hopefully something, maybe a pick, something of value, something. But what you're really getting is you're increasing the value of your own pick. And I hope for Sacramento, that's what ends up happening here. Let's talk about some rookies here, Tom. Con Knippel having one hell of a year for the Charlotte Hornets. Knippel this season, Tom, 16.6 points per game, 6.4 rebounds, 39.8% from three on 8 attempts per game, also tacking on 2.8 assists. Con this year, I loved him in the draft. I knew he would shoot the hell out of it from 3-point range. I knew that was a given. The way he can move off ball, the ability to stop on a dime, but the off the dribble stuff that he's incorporating into his game. I talked to him, interviewed him earlier in the year. He said that was the number one thing he was working on, was his ability to hit jumpers off the dribble, his ability to get to the basket. And that's what we're seeing so far with the Charlotte Hornets early on this season. I've just been beyond impressed by everything besides the shooting from Con. And that was the biggest question with him. He's finishing better off of both 1 feet and 2 feet at the rim. He's finishing against length and versatility and size, finishing through contact, using different angles at the rim. They're using him as a screener sometimes, and he's hitting buckets out of the short roll and making the right pass. And like, he's just being put into so many different actions. And to me, so far this season, Tom, Knippel is the rookie of the year. He's exceeded VJ Edgecombe. Edgecombe slipping as of late. This last 5 games, he's shooting only 28% from the field. Still 15 points a game, 5 boards, 4 assists. Still good raw numbers, but his efficiency has dropped. Cowered before Wednesday night's game against the Celtics when he went 3 for 12. Was 50, 40, 90 on the year. That's crazy as a rookie. To me, I think Cooper Flagg is probably 4th right now. Again, early on. I am worried with Cooper, though. He went out temporarily in Wednesday night's game with a shoulder issue. That could be something that's really bothering him, and there's no clear guy for 5th.
Dude, that block, that block
was awesome.
Yo.
And Cooper, by the way, he has a chance to end up number 1 at the end of the year, like everybody predicted. But to me, it's Con Knippel so far this season as the rookie of the year, about a little less than a month in so far. He's been outstanding, Tom.
I mean, did anyone win more on draft night than the Charlotte Hornets with him and Kalkbrenner?
Oh my God.
Like, that dude can play too. And these rookies should not be able to be as good as they are this soon. They shouldn't be. And yet they are. And that's great coaching. That's great drafting. And the Charlotte Hornets have gotten next to nothing out of LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. And still, they haven't missed a step. I think the Charlotte Hornets fans have to be thrilled with how they've handled the draft the last couple of years. And when you're looking at a guy like Con Knippel, dude's solid. He's really solid, and his improvement from last year, like you said, off the dribble, and he's not just a shooter. He's not just a solid guy, a low mistake guy. He's got a lot higher ceiling than I think a lot of people gave him credit for on draft night.
Oh, no doubt about it. And that's because of the off the dribble development. He's been excellent. And I look forward to seeing how his year continues. There are some awful teams in the NBA, Tom, so far this season. The Wizards are 1-11. The Pacers and Nets are both 1-10. The Pelicans are 2-9. You saw the Pelicans last night. And Derek Queen, he is a silver lining on an awful team. Derek Queen looked sensational, Tom. Tell me about what you saw from Queen.
Amazing touch, incredible touch around the basket. The Blazers have a 7'3" Donovan Clingan guarding him, and he puts his shoulder into you. He's got great touch, and Clingan is top 5 in defensive field goal percentage last year and this year. He's one of the best rim protectors in the league. And yet what Derek Queen was doing against Rob Williams and Donovan Clingan was special. He's got great sense of spacing, touch around the basket, strength. He's a big body. And I think there's a lot of Boogie Cousins in his game in the sense that he's a huge body, but he has guard skills. Like Boogie Cousins had great passing ability. And even though he didn't have a great vertical, he used his body. I kept seeing Boogie and Zebo. Like when I was watching Derek Queen in that game on Wednesday night, it's just, he's so gifted and crafty around the basket, and he's got some flair to his game. He runs well. I think, Derek Queen, if he can be sized next to another like rim protector, a guy who can kind of play above the basket defensively a little bit more, they've got a really special team. With Fears looked awesome too. I gotta say, I've been harsh on Joe Dumars because of that trade with the Indiana Pacers and then flipping that pick to move up to go get Derek Queen and sending that next year's pick to Atlanta. But the way that Fears and Derek Queen have looked, they're a great future there in New Orleans. Those two guys were awesome last night. And I will say, Derek Queen, he looked every bit the star that he has to be to justify that trade. He looked great.
Yeah, and I hope it works out for the Pelicans. I do. I mean, I know sometimes like we joke about them and all that, but I feel for those fans. We're talking about Kings fans and how they've never made the playoffs except for one time, one memorable great season. The Pelicans have had some really rough times as well in New Orleans. I think for some of these other true one-win teams, like the Nets, like you got to really squint, but it's like Yegor Demon, he's shooting pretty well. He's, 18 or 48 from 3, 37.5%. It's nice to see him shooting the ball well. 5 for 6 from the free throw line. He shot below 70%. He's playing pretty well. The Pacers, I mean, my Jarris Walker stock is deep in the red, Tom. It is not looking good. I really can't find any silver linings with the Pacers so far this year. If you're a Pacers fan, please comment with a silver lining. I can't find one other than the light at the end of the tunnel with a high draft pick at the end of the season. But guys are out. I think Nembhard hasn't elevated his play in the way you'd hope. Benedict Mathurin is out right now. But the clear silver lining of the one-win teams, Tom, is Alex Sarr. Alex Sarr for the Washington Wizards. He is talking about a guy taking a leap in the second year. Sarr so far this year averaging 19.1 points per game, 8.6 boards, 3.8 assists per game. And against the Houston Rockets on Wednesday night, a really great defense, 25 points, 11 boards, 4 assists, scoring in so many different ways as a screener, hitting threes, finishing lob dunk opportunities, hitting little in-between shots, push shots from the free throw line. And this is what Sarr has done all year long. This isn't just a one blip so far for the Wizards so far. He looks more comfortable attacking closeouts. His handle looks tighter. He looks stronger so far this season at finishing through contact. And overall, like some of the flashes we've seen from him with some turnaround jumpers that he's hit after driving to the basket from the mid-range, those are the moments where you're like, well, wait a minute, is he just going to be a really good role player, or is there some star upside here? And I think for Wizards fans, your team stinks. You're hoping for a high lottery pick, but the youth are getting better. And that's what it's about. That's what winning is this year, is seeing Keyshawn George and Trey Johnson and hopefully Alex Sarr continuing to ascend over the course of the season, because I've been very impressed by Sarr, Tom. It makes me happy to see him doing well, even though the Wizards are losing games.
I always wonder what would Chris Bosh look like in today's NBA, in the modern NBA, spacing and stretch fives, and Alex Sarr is him. Like Alex Sarr, he is an offensive-minded guy who has great touch and great shooting ability and
Mm.
ability to put it on the deck. He's not, as strong as a rim protector as you might like to have a two-way guy, but he's blocking shots right now. And I just think he's smooth, man. And Chris Bosh, if you put him in today's NBA, he's every bit the star that he was, but I think he's even better because of the spacing and the appreciation of the guardification of bigs. I feel like Bosh would be so much better in this era. And I feel like Sarr is kind of Bosh 2.0, and he's playing like it right now.
That's a good comp, Tom. I appreciate you so much for joining me today, man. Thank you, Tom. Hope you have a good rest of your week, man.
Yeah, dude. Appreciate it. And yeah, this is the Thunder, man. The Thunder.
12-1 without Jalen Williams. What?
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. I appreciate you having me on. I can't wait for next week, dude.
You check out Tom on The Big Number every Wednesday. Him and Dan Devine diving into the NBA. Thank you, Tom.